welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Chelsea Heidig, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of Justin and I's travels. In 2016, Justin and I went on a trip to Germany and Austria together. We kind of were planning to go to Germany, but then I had this really cool experience when I was in college with my study abroad, where we got some time in Austria, and I was just blown away by the people and, frankly, the drive through the Alps. So we decided to try to fit in like a little mini trip within our Germany trip, so we could check out the Alps and Justin could see Austria for the first time. In preparation for a lot of trips, try to plan by looking at Google Maps and saying, hey, what seems sort of close to a place we know we want to go. That's ultimately how we ended up going to Ötztal, and I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly, but it's the Tirol region of Austria. We were planning to be in Munich, Germany for a while and wanted to find a place that we could drive through the Alps and have kind of like a 3-day stay in the mountains on the Austrian Alps. So we found this little town. It was like maybe an hour and a half drive south of Munich. And we said, okay, that's the place, then let's commit to it. And then we started searching for what we'd actually do and what we'd actually see and where we would stay. That's a general theme with most of the trips that I plan for Justin and I or my family and stuff to go on is I first try to pick the places I know I absolutely want to go, and then I see what I can get done in a close proximity to it. And that's where I book my flights, and then I start looking at the places to stay that are along that map. Once we zeroed in, we did need to figure out, as I said, where are we going to stay. And at this point in our travels, we hadn't done a ton of Airbnbs, but we definitely loved the idea of having it be like really relaxing and having like kind of a mountain stay and a mountain cottage or something that we would be in. So I went to Airbnb. We stumbled upon this one that looked kind of cool. It was kind of a modern log cabin in a sense, and it had this wood exterior, and we were toggling through the photos and then were absolutely sold when we saw that it was on top of a hill and like on a mountainside, and the view just was incredible. So we read through some of the description, and it was all in German. So we were trying to make sure that we were booking a legit place, and reached out to the owner. Got a wonderful response from this guy named Ronald, who owned the Airbnb and had, a lot of information on hikes and cool like outdoor spots that we could play and have a nice little weekend. So we booked it. It was one of the more expensive places that we stayed on that trip, but we felt like because it was such a short stay, it was only 2 nights, 3 days, 2 nights, that it was worth it, and really didn't look back because it was an awesome and maybe one of the most memorable parts of our whole Germany and Austria trip. It's funny because when we were researching to kind of make this video, I actually went back to the Airbnb listing and saw that since we stayed, and we were in there in September, like early September, like 3 or 4 weeks later, the owner of the Airbnb actually posted a video of driving directions to get there, which would have been very helpful had we seen those going in. But it added to it because really driving there was part of the fun and part of the journey. We drove through this tiny little town in Tirol, and then to get up to Ötztal, I never again know how to say it. We go through all of these twists and turns and zigzaggy mountainside roads, and you get up to what looks like a small little village, and our Google Maps was telling us to stay straight. So we did. But really straight ahead, the only residential road that we saw was a hill. Now this video is not going to show it well because it was incredibly steep. And we didn't take video at the time of this trip, unfortunately. We had a lot of photos and like 1 or 2 small videos, so I had to figure out a way to show you guys kind of our experience in a different way. But you'll see in this actual footage from Google Earth that I did, that this was the road that we thought our Airbnb was up, and we're driving and start to go up that road and kind of quickly realize this is not where we're supposed to be. And then there's like a cow or a goat, I forget what animal it was, that was like crossing the road, and a farmer that was there too. that clearly made us feel like we were out of place. So we came to a halt and stopped the car on the middle of this hill. Why that was a problem is because in Europe, the main form of car is actually a manual. If you've ever driven a stick shift, you know that stopping in the dead center of a hill becomes a pretty risky game of, will you be able to go again, or are you just gonna drift back? And in this instance, Justin was driving and really let the hill win. We were on that hill trying to restart for quite a bit, and we had several stall outs and definitely got a little bit of, a glance from the farmer here and there. So we remember fondly the epic stall, the epic stall out hill from Austria. I like to say that I saved the day, and I got into the driver's seat and was able to gun it and get the car going again. And we quickly kind of, turned around and started driving back down the hill, only to find that our Airbnb was nowhere near that hill. It was down past the village and to the left in a much more straight and narrow path. But as I said, part of the fun of how we got into Austria was the fact that getting to the actual Airbnb was such an experience and has given me something to joke about with Justin ever since. So we got to the Airbnb, we took a tour with Ronald who met us there. And, he actually did a video that he posted later. So if you're curious kind of what the ins and outs of it looked like, I'll link to his tour videos in the description below. And you can check that out. When we got there, he had this great little basket of information of places we could go. And we asked him what would be a good hike for us to do. We wanted to do something active. And he made a recommendation that there's a really big waterfall a couple of miles down the road called Stuibenfall. So we planned for that to be our second day, and got ready, got our hiking shoes on, got our cameras charged up. Again, this is prior to us having a GoPro, so a lot of photos that we had, but it was such an incredible hike, and I thought it'd be fun to show you guys some of what that was like. I wanted to do to the waterfall and back. That ended up taking us probably like two hours total, and we really weren't quite ready for the total change in elevation that we experienced. But as we were hiking, we were surrounded by kind of like beautiful evergreens, a lot of it was a gorgeous day. So we were having a nice time kind of seeing all of that. And after we've gotten up kind of the steep part of the actual mountain, we realized that we're hiking towards a valley or towards a drop off, and the waterfall we can start to see from afar, and we're like, how are we actually going to get to the waterfall? Do we have to hike all the way back down and then back up? And we discovered that, on the map where we had seen a ton of switchbacks, it actually was leading to a crazy switchback staircase. So we saw the staircase, saw what was ahead of us, and to make it even better, all of the stairs are just grates. So the entire time you're crossing this kind of dip between two mountains, you can look straight down at how high you are. I've never had a fear of heights, but I definitely had some fear getting ready to cross that. It took your breath away. What was funny is we actually, as we were preparing to walk over these stairs, there was a couple in front of us who had a set of dogs that they were taking on their hike, and the dogs stepping on the grate totally freaked out. They tried to flatten their bodies out so that they could lay on the grate instead of standing straight up. You could tell it was messing with kind of their sense of reality of where they were standing. They ultimately didn't walk up the steps, but it made me feel better to know that the dogs were just as freaked out about this as what I was. We had a couple of mileposts that we were trying to get to, and there were several lookouts. So once we got up the stairs and had a moment to adapt, we went to our first lookout where you can see kind of the lower part of the falls. They built this overhang over the lower part of the falls. You were pretty close. You could get the mist and you could kind of feel the waterfall. But as we saw the waterfall, we started, looking up to see where the next lookout point was, and we realized that it was even higher with some additional switchbacks to climb through, and there was even less ground supporting it underneath. So we looked up and we said, okay, that's the next place we're going. But if this was freaking us out with being able to see like what the fall would be, if we fell through the grate, this next one was definitely going to test our limits. So when we got up to that point, we were preparing to kind of walk out here, and you can see Justin getting ready to walk to the truly overhanging look. We saw this sign that we passed that was kind of hilarious, but also, really, really interesting. It was a sign about the value of really calming yourself and getting the most out of the ions of a waterfall. So this kind of spoke to us in a way. It might seem a little bit hokey, but there's always a belief in water has these multifaceted properties of what it can do to calm you, for your health, for your attitude, for everything. And I totally believe that and buy into it. And so this sign was telling us how to really get the most out of it, how to have a calming experience and let those ions from the waterfall, impact your mental health in a good way. So the whole trick with the breakdown was really just to be able to kind of take deep breaths and to pump your arms in a motion that was like pushing the breath down into the earth. So I broke it down. The sign was a little hard to see, but I recreated it here for you. So really, step 1 is breathe through your nose and out through your mouth. Step 2 is really to bring your arms up into kind of a broken T with your palms down. And then step 3 is exhale and push those palms down while you're breathing out in kind of a forced motion that you're pushing the negative air away and letting the space for the ions kind of happen. So who knows if it really works? We felt relaxed. It did help us to kind of have something to do and lighten our mood before walking out to a grate where you can see underneath your feet entirely. But it's definitely something we have done ever since when we're, either joking or we're in a stressful situation and we see each other across the room and we both just start pumping our arms that way, and it always brings a smile to my face. So after we went to the lookout and kind of saw the waterfall, we knew that we had to make our way back, which involved a ton more switchbacks, and had all those calm moments and ions to help power us down. So wasn't such a big deal. Definitely felt more confident walking across the stairs on the end part. And at the end of the day, we were exhausted. We'd had a really good hike, really cool experience seeing the waterfall, and I absolutely recommend going on that hike and doing the full loop if you can, if you're ever in the Tirol region. Last but certainly not least of the whole trip was our last portion where we were looking for something else to kind of do to end our third day. And we were told that this place called Piburger See was a really nice lake, but we definitely weren't expecting it to be as magical as what it was. We honestly had the best time and didn't take a ton of photos or videos because we were so in the moment. But I found a little bit of some content online, wanted to share it with you, but this is my most highly recommended thing that we did in our time in Austria was this lake. It's what you imagine is over the hills and The Sound of Music or something. It was, not visible from the road. It wasn't visible from the walk up. We had about a mile walk down a path to get to the lake, and the whole time you're kind of wondering, where is this lake? But you come through a bit of a forest, and there is a walking path through all of the trees that opens up, and then you see this unbelievable view of a crystal clear lake and the mountain and one of the Alps behind it. I don't know if I've ever seen lake water as clear as what this was. Even when we were swimming in it, and we were probably in 14-foot deep water, you could see clear to the bottom and see that it was lined with stones and pebbles. This is also a pretty chilly lake because a lot of it is from Alps and kind of glacier runoff. But on the days that we were there, we were so hot and we had done so much hiking and kind of outdoor activity. It was the perfect way to cool off. And really, that kind of sums up what our trip was. As I said, I can't recommend the Tirol region enough. Austrian people are just the most kind and welcoming. They have such good food and such light hearts, and everywhere we went, we felt incredibly welcomed, and people were excited to tell us things to try and to do. I think our only regret was that we didn't stay longer. Justin and I talk a lot about going back, and maybe we will plan another trip here once some of the COVID, travel restrictions are lifted. But it's been really fun to get to revisit some of this and to tell you all about this trip. More than happy and willing and love to talk about, recommendations you might have for us to travel to Austria, or questions you have about things that we did while we were in Tirol. Even happy to get comments on how to correctly pronounce Eitz or Oats, the town that we stayed in. So make sure to check out all of those links that I've shared to the Airbnb if you want to stay there yourself. And otherwise, smash the like button and stay tuned for our next video. Bye!